Avocados are highly sensitive to both over-irrigation and under-irrigation. An excess of water can lead to Phytophthora root rot and waterlogging, whereas a lack of water can result in loss of crop and fruit quality problems. Most growers invest a lot of effort and money scheduling irrigation, but it's just as important to ensure that this water is delivered uniformly under each tree and also across an irrigation block. If irrigation is not even across the block, then any fertilisers applied through the irrigation system will also be unevenly applied. This video will cover things to consider when designing an irrigation system, basic maintenance of your irrigation system, testing to ensure uniform and adequate pressure, and checking output and uniformity across the block. When planning a new irrigation system or upgrading, have the system designed by a certified irrigation designer. These can be sourced through Irrigation Australia Limited. In Queensland, GrowCom can also help. When planning your irrigation system, there are a number of things you will need to consider. The system must have the capacity to deliver the crop's peak daily water requirement. Pump and motor performance should be matched to pressure and flow rate requirements. In some cases, the main line and sub-mains may need to include devices such as thrust blocks and pressure valves to minimise any damage and flow restrictions associated with water hammer and field topography. A flushing mechanism may be needed at the end of sub-mains and laterals to flush out any build-up of sediment. These can also be useful to drain residual water away from the block after each irrigation cycle. In most cases, pipe sizes need to allow water velocities of between 0.6 and 1.5 metres per second. Velocities also shouldn't exceed 2 metres per second. Depending on the water source and quality, appropriate filters should be used. Irrigation rates will usually exceed soil infiltration rates, so under-tree mulch and adequate ground cover in the interrow are essential to minimise runoff and maximise infiltration. Regular maintenance is also critical for ensuring effective irrigation. Regular visual inspections during operation will pick up any obvious problems such as blocked or damaged sprinklers and pipes. Visual inspections typically include checking sprinklers are upright and removing weeds or branches that interfere with their operation, fixing any leaks, replacing blocked, damaged or missing sprinklers, and flushing lines if required. Periodic measurement of pressures and sprinkler performance is the only way to identify less obvious problems with pipes and sprinklers. In a well-designed irrigation system, water pressure shouldn't vary by more than 10%. An easy way to check water pressure is by inserting a pressure gauge while the irrigation system is running. One option is to press the gauge onto a Schrader valve mounted on a T-piece that is permanently fitted to the irrigation lateral. Another option is to insert a barbed pressure gauge adapter into the lateral and use a pressure gauge with an appropriate needle adapter fitted. You need to compare this against the specified operating pressure range for your type of sprinkler. Check pressures at a minimum of 3 places. For example, at the beginning of the first lateral, on the sub-main, at the end of the middle lateral, and at the end of the last lateral. It is a good idea also to check any points where pressure is likely to vary, such as at the top and bottom of slopes. Record results to ensure that variation is within the 10% limit. If not, you should investigate further and perhaps also seek advice. It is also essential that irrigation is evenly distributed across irrigation blocks. A distribution uniformity test can be used to determine whether all parts of a block are receiving a consistent volume of water. To test distribution uniformity within a block, collect water output from 24 sprinklers. Choose 6 groups of 4 sprinklers at points where pressure variation is likely to be greatest in the block, such as at the beginning and end of the first and last laterals, and at the top and bottom of slopes. To measure the output of each sprinkler, place it into a large measuring cylinder, held at the normal operating height for exactly 60 seconds. Separately record the amount of water collected from each sprinkler. Multiply the litres of water collected by 60 to calculate the hourly output for each sprinkler. To calculate the distribution uniformity for the block, order the results for each sprinkler from smallest to largest. Next, calculate the average of the lowest 6 outputs, and also the average for all 24 sprinklers. The distribution uniformity is calculated by dividing the average of the lowest 6 outputs by the average of all sprinklers. Ideally, this value should be around 0.9 or higher. If it is less than 0.9, you need to identify why and take action to correct the problem. Inadequate distribution uniformity may be due to a pump problem such as a worn impeller, pipes that are damaged or blocked by sediment or have algal or bacterial buildup, excessively worn or blocked sprinklers, blocked filters, poor irrigation system design, or uneven terrain. Testing and maintenance are vital for ensuring that irrigation water is applied uniformly across the whole block. Even with a well-designed system, it's important not to assume that water will continue to be distributed uniformly over time, so these checks should be done at least every 12 months. Some key points to remember are: if water delivery is uneven, then some trees may be under-irrigated and others over-irrigated. This means that irrigation scheduling benefits are not fully realised, and fertigation rates can also be affected. In avocados, this can lead to a loss of yield and fruit quality. So have your irrigation system designed by a certified irrigation designer. And regularly measure pressures and sprinkler performance, and maintain the system to ensure it's operating uniformly and effectively. With proper design, regular maintenance, and periodic checking, you can ensure that you continue to get the most out of your irrigation system.